Thank you very much. Dr. Hubka, thank you for this tremendous honor. I'm exceptionally honored, but I'm very humbled because you recognize that none of us can actually deserve this. None of us can actually earn it. We all should be trying to, but you can't do that. As you'll see in my presentation, I'm optimistic. I'm an optimist by nature, but I'm not Pollyanna. I recognize issues that occur because only by doing that can you deal with them. So let me start and let's talk a little bit together. I'd like to begin by apologizing to Shakespeare as I modify and paraphrase segments of Antony's speech at the funeral for Julius Caesar. Because I come today not to bury osteopathy, but to appraise it and spread glory upon its founder, Dr. Andrew Taylor Still. In our case, the good that such men have done lives long after them, while any mistakes they may have made and attacks upon their history and contributions lie interred and decaying in the very bowels of history itself. I want you to think about this remarkable fact. 8% of the men of Northeast China, Asia, and Mongolia can trace themselves to the lineage of Genghis Khan. However, 100% of the osteopathic physicians in this room and around the world can trace their professional DNA to Andrew Taylor Still, D.O. That's not just history. That's the foundation of a family. In this DNA, the professional bloodline that has allowed our profession to not just survive but to thrive for 150 years lies our hope for the 150 years yet to come. Here's something else fascinating. The obituary for our profession has been written countless times since Dr. Still flung the banner of osteopathy to the wind in 1874. Every single obituary has required retraction and revision as the profession responded with vigor and life and refused to accept death. At every challenge, every attack, the profession stood together, not for a wake, but to celebrate a revival of unity, commitment, growth, as well as service. This brings me to a very critical point I want all of you to remember. You cannot kill a belief, a philosophy, an ideal through an application of external force when it's right and when the people embrace it. To die, it must be abandoned from within. I plan to show you today how attempts at the destruction have failed due to the profession's commitment to the concepts Dr. Still proposed, but also due to the public desire for its application. Now today, some again are forecasting our demise, claiming that osteopathic medicine is no longer needed, nor is it distinct. The voice of Dr. Still and our patients direct us to deny that conclusion and to maintain our identity as the unique, distinct profession we are today and we always have been. Osteopathic medicine has reached a tipping point. We enjoy broad acceptance by the public, but with that comes the potential for absorption leading to our loss of identity. We are strengthened, however, by the historical fact that many minorities historically have found themselves in similar circumstances, and yet they have all found a way to use the circumstances to advance their progress and growth. I am confident that we can and we will do the same. You know, it's been said by a lot of people, do not doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, that's the only thing that ever has. Now, Dr. Still didn't have an easy birth for our profession. He witnessed the horrors of frontier life, as well as a violent and unforgiving civil war. He saw the devastating limitations of 1860s medicine, up close and personal on a daily basis. Already shocked by the limitations and damages produced by orthodox medicine, additionally came personal tragedies that would have broken most any person. He lost a wife to childbirth, 3 children to spinal meningitis, and an additional daughter to pneumonia. What shocked him is he realized he had very little influence on those outcomes with the practice of medicine as he knew it. And that's the realization that haunted him. Here's what made Andrew very unique and extraordinary. Instead of accepting defeat, he refused to sit passively in the face of frustration. A.T. Still began to refine a philosophy based around one very powerful belief. The body is capable of self-healing and self-regulation when it's in proper alignment. Our profession and that ideal nearly perished in its infancy. Dr. Still was denounced by his local church in Kansas as satanic for putting his hands on patients, a radical deviation from the medical norms of his time. But resolute and refusing to abandon his principles, he moved his family back to first Macon, Missouri, and eventually to the Kirksville area in 1875, where he was finally accepted and received with not only acceptance, but with gratitude. As his reputation grew over the next few years, Dr. Still established a foundation for expansion of his philosophies and his practice. In 1892, he founded the American School of Osteopathy. By 1895, more than 30,000 treatments had been provided at that infirmary. Notables such as Teddy Roosevelt and Will Rogers, Mark Twain, Helen Keller, all advocated for and sought care from the old doctor. They were drawn by the promise of a holistic, hands-on approach to healing, and travel wasn't easy at that time. Today, the legacy of that vision is undeniable. From that original class of 15 men and 6 women, taught in one small log cabin, we've grown to 43 colleges, 70 locations, 36 states, and more than 40,000 students. DO students today represent more than 28% of all medical students in our country. Nearly 200,000 osteopathic physicians are practicing across every state in this nation. Out of 200,000. And here's something that should make every one of you proud. 57% of the 157,000 actively licensed DOs practice in primary care. And they collectively contribute and provide more than 250 million patient visits every year. Every year. The osteopathic profession and its schools dominate the placement of physicians into primary care, into rural and underserved communities, both of which are a testament to our enduring commitment to service and accessibility. This type of a trajectory reflects much more than growth. It reflects a persistent belief system that was translated into action, a professional family that's united by shared values and by a series of recommitments to its founding principles. Our profession has evolved, but its DNA remains traceable to one man's revolutionary ideals. Now, the death of Dr. Still in 1917 could have written the obituary of the entire profession and extinguished the bloodline that we enjoy. Many contemporaneous movements at that time, homeopathy, for example, saw themselves streak across history like shooting stars, only to burn out and be diminished. Osteopathy endured. You got to ask yourself why. Why did it endure? It's because his vision not only inspired students, but he created disciples who shared that DNA and actively joined that bloodline. These individuals believed deeply in the mission, and they carried it forward with a purpose. You, all of us, are the living legacy of that belief. Every attack for 150 years has served to make us stronger. Early in the 20th century, osteopathic medicine faced rejection from the traditional medical establishment. The AMA branded the profession a cult in the 1920s, ultimately documenting that position with a passage in their legislative Congress in 1938. It was deemed prohibited and dishonorable for an MD to consult with a DO. Pharmaceutical reps were not allowed to call on a DO. The Joint Commission, then JACO, standards barred osteopathic physicians from hospital privileges. That's a pretty big barrier, but nobody gave up at the time. Absolutely not. That cult designation would remain in place until 1969, Several of you in this room remember when it was finally repealed. The AMA finally repealed the resolution and extended full membership to qualified DOs. The then JCO restrictions were challenged and eventually overturned, and greatly assisted by the passage of Hill-Burton Act in 1946, which expanded our opportunity for hospital access and infrastructure. This was not a revival on its own of osteopathy. This was a negotiated recognition of legitimacy. Another scathing obituary was prepared in the 1910 Flexner record. That report was predicted to crush osteopathy and would end our profession because it would bury our schools, getting rid of the cult. Abraham Flexner set out to raise medical education standards, from the admission standards to promoting a university-based, scientifically grounded, and curricular approach to medical education. During his studies, he visited 8 osteopathic colleges, and he reported not a single one of them could meet the standards he proposed. In his sweeping vision for reform, Flexner recommended consolidation of United States medical education to just 31 medical schools, and he excluded osteopathic medical schools entirely. His report was wildly influential, and the newspapers completely predicted the closure of every osteopathic school and the demise of the profession. Again, our profession didn't retreat. The AOA, the colleges, and dedicated physicians responded with resolve. They raised academic standards. They expanded basic science laboratories. They lengthened the curriculum. They strengthened both the clinical training and faculty development. In 1916, these reforms were formally adopted by the AOA at the then 7 schools of osteopathy. This was a response to Flexner, but it also was a strategic effort to counter the AMA stand against DOs serving in the military during World War I, where they were excluded. Now, doctors still opposed the incorporation of, quote, orthodox medicine. But in 1915, he called simultaneously for the rigid research to be undergone to validate osteopathic principles and treatments. That call for evidence-based inquiry is a vital, ongoing pursuit within our profession still today, and it's driven us to establish our legitimacy. Rather than fracture under pressure, the osteopathic community embraced their heritage and their philosophy, and then they evolved. Together, they revived a profession that seemed destined for demise. A new generation emerged, the quote, broad DO, which did not abandon their heritage. They evolved forward, carrying the DNA of their founders while meeting the demands of modern medicine. In doing so, they preserved the core principles of osteopathy while embodying Darwin's insight that survival favors not the largest, not the strongest, but those most capable of adaptation. This evolution was measurable. In the 1940s, DOs passed state licensure boards slightly less than 50% of the time. By the 1960s, that had risen to 80%. By the early 1970s, when I started school, DO graduates achieved parity with their MD counterparts, consistently exceeding 90% success rates on licensure boards. Every single challenge we face has become a catalyst for growth. Every attempt to marginalize us has strengthened our resolve. And every revival, importantly, was not a return to the past, but key to step forward in the ongoing evolution of a profession that was deeply rooted in principle, resilience, and in purpose. Now, obituaries again were prepared and written wildly early in the 20th century when the military refused to commission or credential osteopathic physicians in the face of the needs of world wars. While Congress included and authorized the inclusion of DOs into the military in the 1940s, the AMA blocked that action, and the Surgeon General of each of the armed forces just refused to comply. The profession fought back with vigor. And not only a revival, but an expansion of our profession appeared as a result of these actions. Osteopathic physicians had heavy concentrations in industrial areas of the U.S., Pennsylvania and Illinois, Michigan and Ohio, California. During wartime, when excluded from military service, these physicians stepped up to provide for the health care needs of a wartime society. They gained widespread public trust and loyalty. Communities firsthand witnessed the skill, empathy, integrity, and the quality practiced by osteopathic medicine. Historically and ironically, the AMA's resistance served to amplify rather than destroy the profession's visibility and credibility. Their actions sparked a growing public demand for osteopathic care, a demand that persists to this day. In the face of the Vietnam War, however, Congress again in 1963 authorized the credentialing of commission of DOs. In 1967, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara made history when he authorized the enlistment and the commission of doctors of osteopathic medicine into the armed services. What a revival followed that. Small group of 111 osteopathic physicians that led the way. From that small cohort has emerged generations of leaders for the military. Men like Admiral George E. Ferris, the first DO flag officer, and General Ron Blank, who became the first osteopathic Surgeon General of the Army. Let me remind you that today, the DNA of A.T. Still lives and is found in more than 33% of all physicians serving in uniformed service, something we should be very proud of. At the turn of the century, denied access to osteopathic graduate medical education, the profession did what it's always done. It built its own infrastructure. Osteopathic physicians established their own hospitals, their own training programs, their own certification systems. With limited external support, they reached into their own pockets for resources. And following the example of Dr. Still, they provided for themselves when others would not. By 1945, their efforts had borne remarkable fruit. There were 260 osteopathic hospitals across this nation. These institutions become the backbone of osteopathic GME, of our professional development. They nurture generations of physicians committed to holistic, patient-centered care. This momentum continuously grew. With the passage of Medicare legislation in 1965, the expansion of both health care and osteopathic GME was able to accelerate dramatically. What had begun as an absolute necessity became a thriving, self-sustaining infrastructure that spurred the growth and expansion of our profession. What could have been another major obituary became a defining revival for our profession. Through legal, legislative actions and victories, public support, and an unwavering commitment from the profession not only survived, it thrived. Another wake was put to rest. You know, the words of Dr. Still fueled our success at that point, and they guide us still today. Remember this, osteopathy is not a system, it's a truth. That truth, grounded in science, service, trust, and the doctor-patient relationship, has proven itself time and again. The public believed the truth in the past, and I'm telling you they still do today, because the public has witnessed its application and they're aware of the outcomes that come from that application. Today the environment has changed. It's evolved, but the mission endures. Our institutions must continue to plant the seeds and harvest and cultivate the result for leadership, service, and loyalty in every generation of osteopathic physicians. We bear the responsibility of ensuring that osteopathic philosophy takes root in the hearts and the minds of our students, shaping not only how they practice, but influencing why they serve. We must also ensure that both future members of our profession and the public understand the very depth of our history, the strength of our heritage, and the essential role that we play in the health of our nation. This movement today calls for a renewed investment, time, talent, and treasure in honor of the legacy that we inherited and the future we're called to build. Now, history continues to show us that for somebody determined to write your obituary, every success just becomes a new target for attack. Such was the case with what became known as the California Solution of 1962. In collaboration with the California Medical Society, the then president of the California Osteopathic Association, Dorothy Marsh, helped craft a plan that would, in their view, resolve the, quote, osteopathic problem once and for all. Proposition 22 eliminated the state's licensure board, prohibited the licensing of new DOs in California, and offered existing DOs the opportunity to convert to MD degrees for a mere $65 in a weekend course. 86% of the DOs in California accepted that offer, leaving about 280 DO physicians active in the state. One of our largest institutions, the University of California, Irvine College of Osteopathic Medicine, was absorbed, and the profession's presence in the state was nearly obliterated. Across the nation, many people believed they'd finally found the solution to the osteopathic problem, and the end was near. Other states were expected merely to follow the lead of California, pass similar Proposition 22s, absorb the other 5 remaining osteopathic schools, and do away with osteopathic physicians. Hey, problem solved. Multiple obituaries were being drafted. Except it didn't work that way. The profession responded once again. Now, one of the unintended circumstances of the California Solution turned out to be a very powerful catalyst for change for us. 1 year after that controversial merger, the United States Civil Service Commission issued a landmark declaration that they considered, for federal purposes, the DO degree and the MD degree would be considered equivalent. If they were going to give an MD degree to DOs, the degrees had to be equivalent. That ruling, coupled with congressional action surrounding the military in 1963, opened the doors to countless legal and legislative opportunities for us. It laid the groundwork for greater equality and recognition for the osteopathic medicine again and again and again in the years to follow. The remaining DOs in California also refused to lay down and die. Supported by the AOA, yes. Supported by the AOA and the nearly 14,000 descendants of AT still in practice, they refused to accept the erasure of their identity. Leaders like Ethan Allen, DO, challenged the legality and the legacy of that merger. And it took 12 years. It took 12 years of effort and support, but in 1974, the California Supreme Court ordered the reinstatement of the Osteopathic Licensing Board and the resumption of DO licensure. Just 4 years later, 1978, the College of Osteopathic Medicine of the Pacific opened its doors in Pomona, California. Today, California is home to more than 11,500 osteopathic physicians and 4 colleges of osteopathic medicine. What was intended as a final blow for a profession become yet another revival. Proof once again that the osteopathic profession, grounded in principle, united in purpose, cannot be erased by decree. Our resilience has been proven not just to be historical, it is foundational to who we are. Now today, the most significant threats to our profession do not come from external opposition. They come within our own family. It's a very quiet risk of losing our identity, not due to conflict, but due to comfort, through immersion, through broad acceptance, and through the slow but persistent erosion of what makes us distinct. Now, the single GME pathway has opened unprecedented doors of opportunities for our students. It has expanded opportunity and access to training for thousands of our students. But with that progress comes profound challenges, as you've heard somewhat in this house today. The challenge is one being the potential fading of our unique voice, the atrophy of osteopathic licensure examinations, the diminishing of osteopathic board certification, the quiet, persistent drift away from the principles that define us. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. This will only be an obituary if we allow it to be an obituary. The danger is not that others fail to recognize us today. The danger is that we risk forgetting who we are. If the DNA of our profession passed down by Dr. Still is to remain strong, it will require nothing less than a revival from all of us. This revival will be rooted in education and in history, in a renewed and redoubled commitment from our colleges, our professional associations, and from every single one of us who call this profession our home. This task is immense, but so is your legacy. Success will depend upon unity, it will depend upon vision, it will depend upon the active engagement of every member of our expansive osteopathic family. Because mark my words, the future of osteopathic medicine will not be written by chance. It will be written by choice. Our students are not a cause of our today's uncertainty, but they will respond to how they're led and how we respond. It is our responsibility, each and every one of us in this room, as leaders and stewards of the profession, to do more than give lip service and explain why osteopathic medicine should endure. We must ensure that our students feel and embrace why it's worth preserving. They will stay because they cannot say anymore because they must, because they don't have to, but because they want to. They will remain if they see value and purpose in belonging to what we stand for. The relationship we build with them can no longer be rooted in obligation or necessity, as it was at times in the past. History has shown that such relationships born of dependency often lead individuals to actively seek ways out, to seek alternative pathways. We must cultivate relationships grounded in a desire, commitment, and a belief in the unique value and contributions of osteopathic medicine. If our students and young physicians see in us a vision worth pursuing, they will not only join it, they will help us strengthen it. Our colleges must themselves undergo a revival of leadership, one that not only introduces or gives lip service to the traditions, principles, tenets, and philosophy of osteopathic medicine, but one that deeply ingrains them into their students and sees that they're adopted by them. Our accreditation standards must reflect this priority. We must graduate more than just physicians, but osteopathic physicians. Physicians grounded in the philosophy of Dr. Still and the tenets of osteopathic medicine. Folks, this is not just a matter of professional integrity. It is that. But it's also a matter of institutional survival. We're in an increasingly competitive and standardized education environment where disappearance will happen to anybody that doesn't actively pursue who they are. Our colleges and our profession in 1910 responded to the demands of Flexner. We must respond again today with the same conviction, the same clarity, and the same courage. Not just our colleges, our associations at all levels must respond and lead with vision. We have to cultivate new leaders, innovate boldly, and evolve with purpose. This responsibility doesn't rest solely on the shoulders of a few, not even the outstanding leaders that we have that we admire, like Dr. Hupka and Dr. Pacini and Ms. Creason that are sitting up there. It belongs to each and every one of us. Everyone must engage at every level of our profession with everybody we encounter with. We must listen to the voices of the diverse membership that we enjoy today, and we must participate with our future osteopathic colleagues. We must adapt. We have to meet not only their needs, but we have to inspire their aspirations. Okay? We must continue to plant the seeds of leadership, service, and loyalty so we can harvest a crop of success and harvest a future for us. These are the things that have always defined osteopathic medicine, and they must continue to define who we are. The future of our profession will not be preserved only in tradition. It will be secured by action, unity, and a shared belief in the enduring truth of who we are. For generations, when osteopathic physicians faced adversity, we've turned inward. We've turned to each other. In the early days, we had very few other allies beyond our own community. That unity became our strength. It was our foundation, our shield, the source of our resilience. Today, the landscape has changed. We're no longer isolated. We are recognized, respected, and present across every sector of healthcare. But with that progress comes new responsibilities. We must ensure that others not only accept us, but that they value us. For 150 years, we pursued recognition and respect for the distinctive branch of medicine we represent. We are no longer the best-kept secret in American healthcare. We lead in primary care. We serve rural and underserved communities. We contribute meaningfully across every specialty today. Carrying forward the DNA of Dr. Still, we have earned our seat at the table where policy is shaped, where decisions are made, and where the future of medicine is defined. We are no longer content to simply react. We are committed to leading. That leadership and our passion is rooted in our enduring commitment to holistic, patient-centered care. This is a philosophy that has guided us for more than 7 generations since the time of Dr. Andrew Taylor Still. Challenges remain. Some are external. They're rooted in misunderstanding. They're also rooted in the economic pressures of others and the agenda of legislative bodies, regulatory bodies, professional organizations, institutional entities that continue to test our resolve and challenge us to be who we are. There are other challenges that are internal, and they may be more subtle, but they're no less significant. The doctor-patient relationship, central to our philosophy, is increasingly strained by forces beyond the exam room. Time constraints, administrative burdens, and importantly, the depersonalization of care, third-party interference that occurs. We stand here today on the shoulders of giants. Our progress is built on the vision, sacrifice, and courage of those who come before us. And just as they rose to meet these challenges in their time, we must do so today. The next generation will look back on us. They'll look back on this time, and they will measure us by our response. We must each challenge ourselves to ensure that we're up to today's test in the manner of men like Drs. Namey, Dr. Burnett, Dr. McDivitt, Dr. Oliva, or Dr. Bill Anderson. A.T. Still taught us that the truth is never wrong and error is never right. History has shown us that ideals rooted in the truth cannot be defeated by external forces. Those ideals falter when they're abandoned, neglected, or rejected. That's why our greatest responsibility is to preserve and advance not merely the words of osteopathic medicine, but the truth of osteopathic medicine, and we have to do that through action, positive action. To date, every obituary prepared for our profession has been followed by major revival, a step forward, and I believe deeply that osteopathic medicine will emerge stronger from its latest challenges. Why on earth, you have to ask? Because the strength of the DNA of Dr. still exists in each and every one of you sitting in this room. That strength, that will, that purpose endures. Our outcome will not be determined by fate or chance. It will be determined by those osteopathic leaders sitting in this hall here today, young and old, the people that will work together. Now, Dr. Still didn't quietly or gently advance his philosophy, and we can't either. He declared boldly, I have no desire to be a cat which walks so gently that it never creates a disturbance. I prefer my footprints to be physically seen by all. Question before us is clear. Are we equally committed to leaving our footprints deeply and where they're the most needed? Dr. Still also taught us that osteopathy is a system, not a truth. Today, it remains a truth that emphasizes the interrelationship of structure and function, the supremacy of the artery, and the healing power of the body when treated as a whole. It's a philosophy that champions a whole person, patient-centered, wellness-oriented, and emphasized approach to care. Principles that live on in every osteopathic physician, regardless of specialty. And in that we have optimism. We honor and respect our allopathic colleagues, and the quality care they provide. But it's important we recognize that equal is not the same. Our philosophy is distinct. It's rooted in our DNA, and it's grounded in the osteopathic tenets passed down by Dr. Andrew Taylor Still, who was a visionary who challenged convention and reshaped medicine 150 years ago. We celebrate every specialty our graduates pursue, knowing they carry that heritage with them. Yet, I believe, and I know that the foundation of every great healthcare system is built on strong doctor-patient relationships, a holistic approach to patient-centered care, and a commitment to primary care. And folks, no one delivers this type of medical care better than an osteopathic physician. When our nation wakes up to its need for a healthcare system evolution to one that is personal, prevented, patient-centered, I am convinced that will be led by the descendants and the disciples of A.T. Still. More than 150 years ago, Dr. Still taught us that let us not be governed today by what we did yesterday, nor tomorrow by what we do today, for every day must show progress. We have extraordinary opportunities for progress in this time within our profession if we again demonstrate the vision and courage required to seize them. Dr. Still urged us to be bold and brave in our thinking and fearless in our convictions when he said, of what value is a mind when placed in the brain of a coward? If the mind is a gift from God, then we must use it. This is the legacy we inherited. This is a lineage defined not by complacency, but by resilience. For a century and a half, osteopathic physicians have refused to let others define us or write our story. We've not always been able to control the circumstances we face, but we have always controlled our response. And we have always responded with purpose, with strength, and with unity as a profession. Now, there's some times that the path ahead looks a little bit dark, and when the path is uncertain, it's real simple. Go back to what Dr. Still taught us quite famously. He said, let your light shine before men, that the world will know you're an osteopath, pure and simple, and that no prouder title can follow a human name. That name will light up the dark. I'll put it in another way. In the words of a contemporary, Dr. Carol Henwood, a modern leader in our profession, she said, there's never been a better day to be a DO, time and time again. That was true 150 years ago. That's true today. Today, we're challenged to carry the truth forward with pride, with purpose, and with the unwavering belief that the best days of osteopathic medicine are yet to come. I challenge you and I invite you to do exactly that with me as we go forward. I want to thank you very much for this honor. It's been a highlight of my life and the honor of my life, and may God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.